Yeah, change is in the air. But I got a question for you. Are you a warrior or are you a worrier? You know what I'm saying? That's the meditation for today. Yo, I don't know if you like me, but I be reading a lot of articles. You know, the first 6 months of this year, you know, and counting, because it's still happening. You know, it's a lot of changes in the socio-economic, political terrain. You know what I'm saying? As far as like, you know, the society of America. You know, I'm not going to try to go through, you know, all of it because it's way too much. You know what I'm saying? For me to just catalog in one video. You know what I'm saying? You know, they just recently said they're going to be making changes to the Department of Education. So it's a lot of people in the Department of Education that's going to be laid off. Then, you know, drastic changes are being made to Medicaid, Medicare. You know, some people are going to benefit from some of the changes and some people are not. You know, you got, you know, the clawbacks, you know, people that have been getting more money than they say was, you know, supposed to be, I guess, meted out. They're coming back for that. Another topic of discussion in the news is AI. AI is a hot topic, y'all. Automation. You know? So those of you who are in positions wherein between now and next year or now and the next couple of years, I'm sure you don't have to at least be concerned if you don't have a plan. But not having a plan and a course of action, you know, when it comes down to making the necessary adjustments and getting ahead of things, hey, that might very well be something to be worried about if you're the type of person that, you know, you in denial, or you thinking that, I guess you could pray it away, or that maybe, you know, you the type to roll the dice because you got tenure, you know, with your employer, and you thinking that, you know, you may survive the cuts. So really, if you that type, then you dealing with hopes and wishes, you know. But it's a lot going on, and a lot of people, you know, change can frighten you. But I'm gonna use myself in this example. They say the best example to use is yourself. Be a living example, right? Trust me, fam. You're not the only ones that have had to make changes, have had to make adjustments. To me, that's what surviving and thriving is all about. You know, there are a lot of things that, as much as we might not want to accept it or admit it, but unless you a shot caller in the government, or, you know, you controlling policies, you know, and pardon me. Yeah, unless you shot calling, making policies, passing laws, the most power control that you have as a person is your vote, right? And then if you don't get what you vote for, then it's a lot of bills, a lot of things that's gonna get passed and signed off on that obviously, from what I'm reading and observing, is having a lot of direct impacts on people's lives. A lot of federal workers are going to be laid off. You know, a lot of funding to the states in terms of medicine, Medicare, education. You already know, I know a lot of y'all was, very concerned about DEI and all of that, right? So it's a whole litany of things that is totally changing the face of the game when it comes down to the rules. I was also reading the rules that they playing by. That's going to directly affect you, depending on your position, right? So that's up to each individual to know, how are these changes realistically going to directly impact you and your family. But I was also reading about green energy, like solar powered energy. And now that they done signed off on debting and getting rid of, the federal funding and the tax breaks to people, families that were investing in what they consider to be cleaner energy, they about to be rolling back those bills and cutting out those advantages. So now the small businesses or the businesses that had invested and built their livelihoods off of these tax breaks and providing more sustainable, cleaner energy to families, a lot of families are not going to be able to afford those advantages or those particular services anymore. So those businesses or those business owners they screaming bloody murder because they trying to figure out, if they're going to have to, lay off some of their workers. They're going to have to reduce their staff because I don't care what kind of business you in. If you don't have clients and you ain't making sales, and you don't have good consumer retention, then chances are, if your overhead and your cost to do business, outweigh your profits, then chances are you're going to have to cut back. And when businesses start cutting back, the first thing that they cut are labor costs. See what I'm saying? So that's what I've been reading about, just to give you, a little summary of why or how I came up with this to present to you, just to see, hey, maybe, I want to know, how has it affected you? How has it impacted you? Drop it in the comments. If you and your fams are concerned about these changes, look at Walmart, Amazon, Microsoft. A lot of big tech companies are getting rid of a lot of people. So, because they're heavily investing in automation to try to be able, they have to be able to compete and keep up with the market, the competition in their lane. And if their competitors are doing things faster, more effectively and efficiently, and they still slow poking, then chances are they're gonna get, they're gonna get outplayed, outmaneuvered, and outperformed. Look at Kroger. Kroger is shutting down dozens of stores across the nation because they want to optimize the few locations that they're gonna keep running, and because they got to step back into profit. That's business, y'all. But as a consumer, or as an employee, or as a beneficiary, turn around right here. Too much noise down there. As a beneficiary of these government programs that a lot of people that are able, disabled, have become totally dependent upon, you may very well be worried. But are you ready to become a warrior, though, if you're not already that? That makes plans, identifies with the threat, identifies with the shifts, the changes in the terrain, in the atmosphere. You do the calculation of who and what you are right now within the reality, And based on the circumstances and the projections, how are you going to have to be positioned? Who are you going to have to become? What are you going to have to know? What are you going to have to be able to do in order for you to live, pay your bills, take care of yourself within inside of a forever changing, rapidly changing socioeconomic and political terrain, you know? But from what I've learned throughout my short time on this earth, is that where there's a common problem, or wherein people are faced with a common threat, those are the best people to organize. So if you're worried about being laid off from your job, you worried about how you're going to pay your bills, you might have a disability, and you might be living off of like $1,200 to $1,500 or less a month, and they're threatening that, or they're saying, hey, you know what, we're not about to give you the full amount that we used to, because according to your medical reports, you're able-bodied enough to get out here and work. And that's what I see happening. A lot of people, you know, they might be already retired, 50, 60, 70 plus years old, and still out here having to grind and compete for resources, right, with people that are old enough to be like their grandchildren. So I don't personally think that that's how most people imagined their golden years to be, you know. But what's the solution? There are many solutions. But like I was saying, whatever your problem is, or whatever's threatening or jeopardizing your current position, all I want you to know is that you're not by yourself. And I think that, personally, I think that instead of trying to muscle it by yourself, solo, me, myself, and I, trying to figure it out, you can work 2-3 jobs, but you still got the same amount of time as everybody else in a day, 24 hours. Much of that, you gotta sleep, you gotta eat. If you got a family, you hardly see your family. There are other people that are in those same similar positions. But instead of trying to muscle it by yourself, on your own, just like you forming communities on social media and talking about all of the other things, the sidebars, which is like, you know, whether you deem it to be entertainment, a way for you to decompress, or, you know, whatever it is, if it's just a sidebar and you're not monetizing the time that you're taking out away from work and your family to bring your mental energies to these platforms, then that's all it could be, is entertainment. You see what I'm saying? So, but even in entertainment, right, you gotta pay for Netflix. You gotta pay for Amazon Prime. So, you gotta pay for your phone every month. And if you got paid apps, you gotta pay for the phone and the service to be able to gain access to these platforms, or else you wouldn't be up here. So it's still costing you resources. But where is your ROI? Your ROI and your return on your investment, whether it's directly or indirectly. A lot of y'all still don't have your Facebook accounts monetized. So you could at least get a couple bucks, few tens of bucks or whatever, few $100 for having a good time on social media and talking about what you want to talk about. But you each represent an individual part of a community. A community is a group of people who share the same values, identify with some common ground. All right, how you ladies doing? You identifying with something as a collective by way of your individual parts, and you're choosing to gather. All right, how y'all doing? Y'all getting it in, I see. All right, I like to see that. Yeah, enjoy y'all day. You know, see, people out here get it in, y'all. You know, I'm a part of that vibe. You know, energy, positive, healthy energy. They out here walking today. You know, the elders, they getting a tribe of them. I love to see that. But yo, and some of y'all need to learn how to speak to people. You know, don't be so mean. You know? All right. Yeah. Yes, sir. All right. So what I'm saying is, why waste that potential? If you threaten to, how y'all doing? All right? All right. See, they tribed up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they out here. Men and women out here walking like a tribe. I love it. You know, brothers and sisters decided to get up today and to do something together. That's what I'm talking about. Now, what they're doing may not be wrapped around product, services, travel, insurance, credit, you know, or whatever your lane is. But guess what? They represent they're a living representation of what I'm talking about. All right, morning, how you doing? Seize the opportunity. Identify with your realistic situation. You behind on your bills? You got bad credit? You know, you want to change your lifestyle? You want better health? Morning, how you doing? All right, sister. And look, sister's out here walking. You know, that elder sister there got her walking stick, smile on her face. And guess what? That's what we need to be organizing around. Solutions. Because look, everybody out here have problems that are similar. But what are you doing as a collective to address it? Now, all right. What I'm suggesting is health and economic improvement. But I'm not the only solution on the block. But the solutions that I do have are valuable, that can help to correct a lot of the health issues amongst the people. A lot of you might say, hey, you know what? I'm not really trying to get rich with it, but I would like to get my products for free for me and my family. That's doable. Minimal effort. Or you might need another $500 to $1,000 extra dollars coming in. That's groceries. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know, that's grocery money. You know? I'm like, why not? Does it solve all of your problems on, you know, nah, it probably most likely doesn't. But if you got a multitude of problems and you just looking at it or looking at them and you worried about it and you're not doing nothing about it, I'm just here to tell you that that's not going to fix the problem. So the more you ignore it, the more you put it off, the more you make excuses, there go the more weight you going to gain. The higher your A1C going to go. Your blood pressure numbers is going to keep going up. The more you, how you doing, brother? The more you increase your chances of developing problems with your kidneys. The more chances, the more you put it off is the more chances you have of developing cancer. You know why? Because the things that's causing the problems are the things that, in a lot of cases, you're not putting those things off. You're embellishing, you're indulging, you're amplifying, and you're being consistent with the things that's keeping you broke and keeping you sick, keeping you out of shape, keeping you unhealthy. But you're making excuses for the things that could rectify a lot of those issues. Being broke after you pay your bills, not having enough money to enjoy yourself. You might got a trip you want to go on, but you got to wait, you know what I'm saying? And probably go into further debt just to go and have a good time. You got to ask yourself, don't you deserve more than that? Don't you want more than that? These are just questions. But you have people that are getting together that's saying, hey, you know what? I would like to travel together. But if I did it by myself, it would take me 3 or 4 or 5 years to be able to go on that trip to save up on my own. So what they do is they form networks, clubs, wherein by everybody becoming a member of that club, sort of like a time sharing. You probably can't afford the villa over there in Greece by yourself or the yacht. But if you got 20 investors that agree, right, that all want to go on that yacht, or they want to go to Greece and stay in that villa whenever they want to, they're going to chip in. That's all I'm doing with health, with people that are like mine. You say, oh, these products are too expensive. But how? When I get mine for free. How you doing? And you can get yours for free by uniting and forming clubs and cooperations, right, and agreements with other people, just like you and myself, that want something better out of life, that want cleaner health, products that work, cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable hydration sources that are portable, whatever. And I'm already a representation on an individual level. You see me out here talking and giving you this game, running. So it's not like you got somebody talking to you that's sitting on the couch with my hand down my pants with a pot belly, drinking beer, drooling, trying to talk to you about health and wellness. But this is my vibe. This is what I'm on. And I'm going to be on this regardless. But I can't help but to think, hey, when I see people online that I know for a fact have come in contact with real solutions, but they either talk themselves out of it or they come up with some kind of excuse as to why they, either won't do it, don't keep doing it. I don't know, right? But guess what? I'm not mad at you. But I still see you up here talking about you in pain. You in the hospital. You got to get a surgery. They got you on chemo. I'm rooting for you. Whether you do it, I suggest or not, just know I'm a part of the energy that's rooting for you. Because see, it ain't just like about me. I already implement my solutions, but it makes me feel so bad. I feel for you because the one thing that I cannot do, I can't make you do something that you really don't want to do. I can't make you believe something that you're going to use cognitive dissonance or a third party who you're close to, who really don't really know what they're talking about. If you were to ask them about the natural holistic sciences, about health and how the body works on a cellular level, on a mitochondrial level, right? They're either going to brush it off or hit you with another question. But they're not going to really educate you or substantiate their position with real facts So in a lot of decisions as consumers and as investors, you're making more emotional decisions. And in a lot of cases, you say you're conscious, you aware, you awoke, you awaken. You're a part of the Mayayan or Hotepian, the Asasiya, right? You're a part of, we branched up in all these different paradigms and schools of thought. But the common ground, regardless of semantics, is that biologically and physiologically, we all need the same thing. We all have bills to pay. We're all caught up in a hyperinflationary style economical society wherein a lot of y'all are paying more and getting less quantity and less quality. And you have layoff anxiety because regardless of how long, predicated that you're not already retired and already got your nest egg and have already paid your dues, which is the baby boomers. But even in the baby boomer section or sector, it's still a lot of y'all that's working to pay y'all bills after you've already, you've already paid your dues for 40, 50 years plus. But you still having to chase money because you probably retired too early, or they tricked you out your pension, or you got laid off at the last minute and you only got 50 to 65% of your overall retirement money or your 401k. Or when it came time for you to get your 401k plan, you realize that the behind the scene investors that been investing your money for you, they tacked on all of those hidden fees. So what you thought you was gonna get is probably nowhere near the amount that you're gonna have to live on. And if you retired at 62, 63, 65, they talking about moving it up to 68, right? Before you can retire. You coming into a reality where, what if you live to 85? What if you live to 90 or 100 years old? Is that pension plan, that 401k plan, that social security check, is all of that going to really be enough to sustain your life as the prices of living and the cost of living continue to go up for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years that you might live? But what's your solution? The solution is residual income, cooperative economics, communal investment, wherein you don't have to use a lot of your own revenue or resources in order to put yourself in an ideal position to be able to earn and collect and generate more than what you put in legitimately. If this is an investment business model that you and your community, you might live in a building with 20 or 30 families. You might live on a city block. You see the children is hungry on your block. You see people sleeping in their cars, out in parking lots, sleeping in U-Hauls, sleeping in storage units, or sleeping on your couch. And a lot of them, in some cases, got college degrees, used to live in the suburbs. But because of HOA fees, or whatever it is that happened to them economically, they could no longer afford to live based off of what they already know and what they already came to accept as being their source of income or way to live or how to eat. And because they was one-trick ponies and they didn't have the ability to adapt and to adjust and to be innovative and to tap into the collective cooperative power of the people, they still tried to muscle it on their own without opening up their mind to new information and new ways of living. That's the times that we living in. In the next 1 to 3 years, it's going to be a lot more homelessness. Poverty is about to go to levels that you never seen before. Why wait until the storm comes before you do something about it? Why not start having the right conversations? Because just like we could talk about frivolous issues, just like we could share our thoughts and opinions on things that you may find to be silly, you may find to be irrelevant. You may find to be something that's beneath your IQ. Whatever the case may be. My point is, before I conclude, is just like we talk about things that you may say don't matter, what about the future of your children? What about your ability to pay your bills? What about your grandchildren and your children that left home and they might have to very well come back and sleep in their own room or get a couch or a basement because the cost of living was something that they really couldn't keep up with? Solutions are on my page. Health. Invest in your health as an individual and as a family, as a household. Create your free website. Attach your social security number or your LLC. And start connecting with other people that want to create real solutions on a cooperative level together. And just duplicate that same process. And everybody eat, everybody live, everybody take care of ourselves and each other. That's what I'm telling you is available. That's what I'm proposing as an individual. I don't have all of your solutions, but this is a solution-based page. You may already be straight, but what about your family members? What about your colleagues? What about the people in your neighborhood? Suffering is all around us. Stop being selfish and reach out to the people that need the help the most. And let them make their decision. Stop trying to make people's decisions for them. Because the information that you have, that you're withholding, may very well be that life-changing thing that person or that person or that person has been desperately looking for. It's your brother. I'm about to finish what I started. I just wanted to stop right here before I transition back into the traffic, so that way you could get this message. I'm going to put it on my YouTube. If you have any questions or you know somebody that's interested in being a warrior, a socio-economical, political, because economics is political. You see what I'm saying? Because based on your socio-economic and health status in this society or anywhere across the world, that's what's going to determine the amount of individual power, your will to do, your will to be, and your will to prevent things from happening to you on any level within inside of the milieu or the environment. That's what's going to create your environmental status, which is political, because that puts you in a position to be able to be a voice or to take action if it's things around you that you don't agree with that's affecting you and your family, or to be proactive to bring about positive change in your environment or your community. That's what power is supposed to be used for holistically. Not to dominate, oppress, suppress, repress, you know what I'm saying, other people for your own benefit. So hey, that's me. It's your brother. Take care of yourselves. Like I said, if you got any questions, concerns, or you got an interest, hey, get at me. Drop a comment or hit my DM. My number and my email is at the top of my website. Hey, health is wealth. And hey, let's get active and stay active. Be well. And I'm out.